Right?
Yes.
I am testing audio. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the September 5th, 2004 meeting of the Corvallis School Board is called to order at 6:34 p.m. In the interest of public health and safety for all community members, especially immunocompromised individuals and their families, the Corvallis School Board will continue to offer a virtual option for board member and district personnel participation. The feedback's a lot, sorry. Additionally, public comment is available at some meetings, both in person and virtually. Information about how to provide public comment is available on the Corvallis School District website. The board agenda and packet, as well as the link to the district YouTube channel, are available on the school board page on the district website. Public meetings are live streamed on the district's YouTube channel, and a recording is posted on the same channel, typically the day after the meeting. Today we have Judah, Chris, Shauna, and myself in attendance in person, and Sammy is attending virtually, and Therese is excused. The first order of business is the acknowledgement of Hispanic Heritage Month, and we're going to take turns reading that.
Corvallis School District 509J, Acknowledgement of Hispanic Heritage Month, Resolution Number 21-0901.
Please, hold on a second, Judah.
Before we do the resolution, I want us to be able to resolve the sound piece.
Okay.
Just so that we're able to really pay attention and listen to the resolution.
Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Thanks for bearing with us. This is the first time we've been back in this space since pre-COVID, and trying to work through all of those pieces. Thanks.
Thank you for turning that on. Yeah.
Okay, so your speakers are going to go down a little bit.
How about this? All right. Yes?
Keep going.
Still keep talking? Can I start reading the resolution? All right. Corvallis School District 509J, Acknowledgement of Hispanic Heritage Month, Resolution Number 21-0901. Whereas Hispanic Heritage Month grew out of Hispanic Heritage Week, which was established by President Lyndon Johnson in 1968, and whereas Hispanic Heritage Month was established as September 15th to October 15th through Public Law 100-402 by President Ronald Reagan in 1988, and whereas September 15th recognizes independence for Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, September 16th recognizes independence for Mexico, September 18th recognizes independence for Chile, and October 12th recognizes Dia de la Raza. And whereas the state of Oregon has a documented history of xenophobia and anti-indigeny, and
Whereas Hispanic, Latino AXE, and Chicano AXE students and staff make up the largest racial or ethnic minority group in Corvallis schools. And whereas people who identify as Hispanic, Latino AXE, or Chicano AXE have a rich history and have positively influenced and enriched our society and our schools through their entrepreneurship and commitment to community service, deep value of justice and liberty, and social and cultural life. And whereas Hispanic, Latino, AXE, and Chicano, AXE, people have made and continue to make important contributions to education, science, art, culture, and public service, and our nation's growth and prosperity, and
Whereas education is a necessary component for creating a more equitable and anti-racist community, nation, and world, and whereas the Corvallis School District has made a commitment to equity and anti-racism, whereas the Corvallis School District has a responsibility to honor and respect the diverse histories of our community, and whereas the Corvallis School District believes each and every student must be celebrated and appreciated for the distinct and vibrant contributions made by sharing cultures, language, ideas, beliefs, and values within a school community.
Now therefore it be resolved by the Board of Directors of Corvallis School District 509J, Benton and Lynn Counties, Oregon as follows. Proclaim September 15, 2021 through October 15, 2021, as well as each September 15th through October 15th annually as Hispanic Heritage Month in the Corvallis School District, and strongly encourage families, staff, and community members to join in existing local celebrations, and encourage all students in the Corvallis School District to help highlight this month in great appropriate ways, as well as highlight the contributions of Hispanic, Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latine, and Chicano, Chicana, Chicanx, and Chicane peoples to the local community, nation, and beyond, both historically and in current times, adopted by the Board of Directors of School District Number 509J, Corvallis of Benton and Lynn Counties, Oregon, at its regular meetings this 9th day of September 2021. And again, we reread these each time they come up as a to reaffirm the Corvallis School District's commitments to them. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everyone, starting September 15th. And the next item on the agenda is actions on matters discussed in executive session. Is there any, we can't really say much, so. Does anyone wish to make a motion? The language is on board book on the sidebar under motions. That's where Kim has them now. I was looking on the packet too, so I remembered where it was right now. It should be, and it's not there. Kim, the motions aren't opening on board book.
There wasn't one for this one because there were so many options there.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for that reminder. It's in our executive packet. Thanks for bearing with us, y'all.
Meanwhile, Chair just was asked to do a quick audio check. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Sammy.
Awesome, thanks.
I move that the board hold a hearing on this matter.
It's been moved by Judah. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved by Judah and seconded by Shauna. I do not believe we can have further discussion on this one.
Chair, can I make a disclosure though?
Yes.
I would like to make a disclosure that the complainant made contacts about the matter, and I was able to navigate it according to our procedures and by deferring to the process, to the policies that we follow, and wants to disclose that ex parte contact, and there's no objection. I feel comfortable continuing and making a vote given the facts presented to me within the board.
Thank you for that clarification, Sammy. So it has been moved by Judah and seconded by Shauna to hold a hearing. And I'll take a roll call. I'll start online. So Sammy?
Aye.
Judah?
Aye.
Chris?
Nay?
Shauna?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes 4-1-0. Okay. So that, we'll get directions on that. Do you have something, Judah?
Isn't it 4-1-1 because we have one abstention?
Who abstained?
Oh, no, never mind.
Yeah, no. I'm getting confused because we're short a board member now, so that's why, right now, so that's why I was like, I'm like counting everybody in, it's an even number instead of an odd. So the next item on the agenda is board member reports. Are there any board members that would like to offer a report?
I do have a report to share.
Okay, go ahead, Sammy, and then we'll have Chris go.
Sorry, so probably Chris will touch on that as well. It was a joy joining several of you at the start of this year, back to school, and really appreciate the good work that the staff has put to really bring everybody together. Last year there was a competition between me and Chris, and I was served sandwiches and she served burritos. This time we joined efforts and we served pizzas, and it was great. So I really appreciate that opportunity to connect with the community. And that's my report.
Good, Chris?
Yeah, I also wanted to comment. I think that whole back-to-school rally just was so well organized, and there was such a positive feeling in the building, inside and out, about everything. Everybody was just really positive, and it was very well done. And the meals, everything was well organized. I do think serving pizza won, because I think we got rid of the most, sold the most. It was fun. I also wanted to comment on school open houses, or I don't know if they call it open house. It's the day before school actually starts, where kids can come and meet their teacher. And I got to go to 2 schools, and again, there was a lot of nervous and positive energy within the kids, but the teachers were really doing a great job just calming nerves and having good conversations. I sat and had a conversation with a parent who is brand new to Corvallis, very limited English, and got her connected to the ELL teacher there at one of the schools, and it was great how the teacher just took over and started explaining, and I think that parent felt very relieved, as the student did too. And then also wanted to mention, you might be telling about the resource fair that Sarah Devine and her group organized for families to come in and get access to services and connect. Sarah told me that they saw at least 300 families. And so I just think that's such a great service that we do to help our families, especially before school. And then finally, I just want to say, again, thank you to our school district for providing our kids with school supplies so that our families are not having to purchase hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of school supplies. I know that takes a huge stress off many of our families, so thank you for doing that again.
And I'll third what Sammy and Chris shared about the back-to-school rally. It was so just energizing to be there. It felt very hopeful, so enthusiastic, really nice to see staff back in buildings, excited to be here, feeling restored after the summer. Chris, to add to your thanks, also with having meals available for all students in the district, I've heard so much gratitude and appreciation from families about this resource that the district is offering this year. And then also wanted to share, I had an opportunity to be a part of the new educator orientation and professional development, and was invited to facilitate a student panel with students participating in SAFE, which is Students Advocating for Equity. And we had two groups that split off of students and new educators, where it was so wonderful to see new educators coming into our district who are just so thrilled to be here, so excited to be here, and they were so eager to learn from the wisdom and experience of students who came and just beautifully shared, came with so much courage, with vulnerability, and had so much wisdom to impart on these newer educators to our district. So just wanted to share our gratitude for everyone who was involved.
And I'll just share a couple things. I also was at the back to school rally. That was a lot of fun, and I helped with the land acknowledgement for that, and excited for everybody for the start of the year, of course, and seeing everybody in the buildings. Just wanted to say a reminder to slow down in the school zones community. Yes, people are driving fast in the morning still, and after school. And then I also went to the Corvallis Public School Foundation, started the year, little board gathering, and got to say hello to the foundation board members. I really enjoy working with them. I wasn't able to go to the meeting due to a work conflict, but Therese went in my place, and so I'll report that for her too. And I also attended an online training from the OSBA on legislative engagement, and I'm really looking forward to trying to find a way to bring that training to the rest of the board as a board development. So we'll be figuring out when that'll happen. And hopefully folk can come to that session as well, since our meetings are open. So it was a really great resource to learn more about with the upcoming legislation. I know a lot of community members are wanting to know how to be involved with advocacy for school funding, and so I wanted to check that training out to see if it was a good resource for us, which it was. And then I also wanted to echo the thanks to the district for the food, the supplies, and the athletic fees, and so all the different ways that students feel supported and involved. I think that's really great that we have that here, and I hear a lot about that from families as well, to be able to have access to some of that. So that's my report so far. And then the next item on the agenda is the Oregon School Board Association and National School Board Association updates. Sammy, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize if I may also add one more thing. I attended several of the informational sessions for our local school board, informational sessions for our board members, prospective board members who might apply, and had a few meetings with folks. A few of them showed interest of attending the meetings as well. So if they're here, hello. There's one more session. If any of you would like to join, please let Kim know. So we manage that we stay under the 4 quorum. Also, regarding the national updates, not much to add. Just want to highlight really grateful for NSBA and Go Green Initiative getting the grants from the EPA. The EPA gave away $38 million for helping school districts and school district leaders monitor and improve air quality. I want to add some opportunities might come for us as a local school district that champions some of this work for us to be involved in it and maybe get more resources. So I want to highlight that as a potential. Also, among the updates that I have, we started the negotiation process for the permanent executive director of Oregon School Board Association. Just finished one of the negotiation sessions. I want to really thank the local experience that I had sitting on our negotiations with unions and negotiation with the superintendent. It's really informed my experience, and it's helping me do this work. And we're hoping to bring in a tentative agreement for the whole membership very soon. Another item that's probably will be on the agenda, OSBA will be having 2 positions vacant, the Legislative Policy Committee for Lynn Benson Lincoln, and a position up for election, which is the Lynn Benson Lincoln board member on OSBA. Very important 2 positions, and I encourage us to take those positions seriously because it's important to reflect the voices of our region in these 2 seats.
Thanks, Sammy. Any clarifying questions for Sammy? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, and there's a slide presentation. That's what it says, no?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I was just preparing for you all to be staring at us for a little bit with the screen behind us, so I'm not sad that there's not one right now, but there is one later.
So at the beginning of each school year, we invite our new administrators to come to a board meeting to be introduced. So tonight we're going to introduce Amy Sampson and Angie Legue, who are both new to us this year here in CSD. So Amy, do you mind standing up while I say a little bit about you? So Amy is serving as the principal at Letitia Carson. She has been at that school both as an MTSS coordinator and as a dean of students, and has been in education for the past 23 years. And we're just really happy to have her at the school. She brings a sense of consistency because she's had leadership roles within the building, which really sets her up to be successful. And she's been out hard at work. I visited several times and I can barely catch her because she's with staff and with families, which is exactly what I want to see happen. So again, let's give her a round of applause and a welcome. And then Angie is serving as the assistant principal at Sheldon this year. Angie was at Sheldon last year as well, serving in the dean role. So again, consistency and leadership. And Angie has had some really unique experiences in the last 10 years in education. A teacher, restorative classroom facilitator, behavior specialist, and instructional mentor for restorative practices and social emotional learning. So comes with both the academic side as well as the social emotional side, and so a great asset to have at Sheldon. So congratulations and thanks, Angie. All right, so I have a couple of other updates because we haven't met together for quite some time. And so the first one was that back in July, I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. As a representative superintendent from Oregon to meet with our representatives and senators. We were able to meet with both senators and all of our representatives but one. And the focus of that visit was to talk about advocacy for public education. We focused on the need to fully fund programs like Title I and Title II, which provide services to students and also to teachers in Title II. IDEA, funding of IDEA has always been a promise but has never come to fruition. And then some other key bills that were moving forward. Care for Student Mental Health Act was one of those. And then there were a number of bills with draft language related to technology and student use, which I thought was an appropriate thing for us to be talking about as we have more and more conversations right now about access to social media, access to technology in schools. And it felt like a really successful trip. We even had a chance to, when we met with Senator Wyden, some of the language that came forward out of that visit, made some changes to one of those, the acts related to use of technology, which was need to have that conversation one day and see changes in language the following. So again, I'll be going again next year in July. It's 3-year terms, and so this will be the end of my first term, and there's a potential that I could do a second. But it has been a really valuable experience, and I think that based on all the things we hear about DC, it felt like we were listened to, the information we shared mattered, and there were things that could happen as a result of it. So it felt really good to be an advocate in that way. So that was July. Chris mentioned the Health and Resource Fair, and that was Kelly. I want to appreciate Kelly Losi because she did the heavy lift to make that happen, to get all of our community partners there, to get our students cared for. So here's what happened by the numbers. We were able to serve over 550 people, which is a high for the 4 years that we've done this. Over 300 children were measured for Operation School Bell, which provides students with clothing. 70 dental screenings, 32 medical appointments happened, 21 were sports physicals, and 11 were vaccinations, 27 hearing screenings. There were 70 kids that participated in the Casa Latina Unidos activity table, 96 verifications for registration. We had 12 new students enroll. And then also 25 families received support with bus and My Ride K-12 registration. So it was really successful. There were 25 community agencies that were in the gym at Linus Pauling. And when I went around and talked to them, they felt like there were lots of families that were coming through. And in between families, they were also doing a lot of partnership because they were all doing social work and they were all in the space together. So they could do a lot of partnering. So that was a really fantastic event. Again, this is the 4th year that it's happened, and every year it gets bigger. So we'll see if we can beat that 550 people mark, but that's a great turnout for one day. Outside, I just want to highlight, we've made some changes to our reception area. One of the things that we've had to consider in our budget reductions is some of our positions. And so as you'll note, as you look out there, we have moved a TV monitor into place, a phone, so folks can call specific departments to meet with. We'll also soon have double doors there, so during board meetings that area will be locked, but people can still make it to the restrooms down in this part of the building. But again, this was a decision we needed to make as we were making reductions. We want families to still feel valued, and like this is an important place to come to get what you need addressed. And at the same time, we've had to make some modifications. And so as you come to meetings here, I just wanted you to be aware of that. The Welcome Back Rally, again, thanks to those of you who were able to attend. Basically, we started with the theme of the Olympics, and schools and departments walked in with flags for their school or their department, again, representing every school, every department as a part of an integral part of what happens in our school district. And then we had families and students send in little vignettes about the Olympic traits and characteristics and how those relate to their individual school. I had a lot of positive feedback on that from folks, feeling like it was a really uplifting, positive way to start the school year. So, and finally, thanks to Lou for getting us started that morning. A couple of other pictures I have, and a little thing to go with it because this is the first week of school. Kindergartners enjoyed free choice time by making acorn and shiny gem soup and beaded necklaces, and learned how to follow directions with musical instruments. So that's what you see up there. Second graders did number corner, working around combinations of 20 and how to use the number 3 in an equation 220. Fifth graders stacked Smarty candy and tried to improve their strategies, discussing what they learned each time and the ways trying different strategies helps you to be more successful, so prototyping. Middle school students greeted each other after a long summer away by connecting outside of the building before school started. And then again with middle school, we stuck with that plan that we had last year where students spent a lot of time in homerooms and building connections as a positive way to start the school year. And finally, high school students in a Health 2 class shared information with the teacher about things they like, don't like, that they want, places they have been, places they want to go, and things they need, have, and hope for. They also discussed with the teachers the connections between the teacher knowing these things and their successful experience in the classroom. So again, we start with a lot of hands-on, social-emotional components, working on learning routines as we get started with the school year, and I feel like we're off to a really positive start. The other group that I want to recognize tonight is facilities. Our facilities department worked really hard today. This is the first day I can ever remember, and this is starting year 26 in education, a day that was as warm as today was during a school year. And our facilities department was out making sure that everything was well vented last night. We had fans where we needed to. Some of our schools where we knew there was going to be additional heat, we provided some additional resources to folks so that people were cared for. With our bus drivers, we made sure that they had wet cloths that they could put around their necks, and then when they went to the next school, they could re-dip them so they could stay cool. We had water bottles on buses. Again, trying to think about all the ways to care for one another. In the first week of school, having this come up, there's always things that are coming up week 1, week 2, week 3, but this was something in addition, and the facilities department worked really hard to make it happen. So Kim and her team, I just want to say thank you to you as well. And then my last thing is just a recap of our board retreat. So we talked about the Youth Truth Survey and the value and importance in it, and I hope you walked away feeling like there was good information that came from it. And we're going to have opportunities for students to share their voice in upcoming sessions with Marcy-Ann and Jimmy, Jimmy Simpson from Youth Truth, and I'll make sure that you get some information about how those go. So that is my list, and again, welcome back.
Thanks, Ryan. Does anybody have any questions for Ryan on his report? Okay. Well, thanks for that's a lot for our first meeting already. So the next item on our agenda is public comment. Do we have public comment this evening?
So did anybody have public comment? I was busy as everything started, and I didn't receive any, so doesn't look like it.
Okay. Let's see. Do I still read the whole? I've never had to when there's nobody here. Do we just say there's no? Okay. The public hearing is now closed since there are no public comments. There we go. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the summer program update, and Sabrina has a presentation. So this is where we're going to be. We're going to be looking there, and you all are going to be looking behind us now. And we're right next to the screen too, so.
Am I on? Oh, good. Okay. All right, we have another great summer to report on. Isn't that such a fun and exciting thing? It is a fun and exciting thing. I'm so happy to do that. We met with the foundation today to debrief a little bit of our summer programs, and I just thought about how amazing it is that we're this many years in and able to share all these things, which is awesome. We have to do all the things here. Share my screen. Somebody disabled that. They'll want to re-able that.
You should be able to share screen.
Okay. Doesn't want to let me. We're going to share it with somebody else who has set up that they can do it. Does not want to let me. I have permission, it just won't share it. Here, let's try again. Oh yeah, this looks like a bad rabbit trail. I'm gonna send it to you, Kim. Okay, I'll share it with Kim and we'll get started. Lots of you know that our summer programs this year we had just under 600 available seats, which is about twice as much as we were able to do the year before. which is pretty amazing when you think about how many different opportunities existed for students. I'm going to walk us through that and what we had this summer and how awesome it was and the success that we had. But I also want to walk us through a simultaneous story that's happened over the past 4 years, because I think it's a really good marker of where we are in this work. And so I'm going to do two things, which is both celebrate and enjoy the great work that happened this summer, but also think a little bit about where we're at over time and where that's brought us and what that means for our programming. What you're missing right now is a picture of Ryan serving snow cones, always serving snow cones. Look, there he is. That's perfect. Isn't that great? Look at him. So happy. Is that your favorite part?
Or is it the hot space otherwise?
Yes.
That's perfect. Okay, Kim, you can go to the next one. So I want to talk a little bit about where we started. So we started with Joe and I about 4 years ago, and we had a couple of things happening at that time. We got a big chunk of money regarding COVID and COVID recovery, and those were expectations for us as a school district to put together programming that would serve students really attending to lost school time. At that point in time, historically, we have had a few things happening in our school district in the summer, and I want to remind you of what those are just briefly. We had pockets of credit recovery programs. The foundation had been giving out interesting and fun, great grants in the summer for creative programming. We had Kinder Academy, which is something that had been running longer, and other little programming pieces like that that often were kind of scrapped together from maybe leftover grant funds, and then obviously what the foundation was contributing. When we picked up 4 years ago, everybody's heads rolled and we all bit off way more than we could chew, and we're all just grateful that Jennifer still works here, even after those first few years of planning for summer programming. What some of you will remember is we came back and were like, yeah, it was awesome. And oh, by the way, it uses all the resources from the whole school district. And we learned that really fast. And so when I think about where we came from, there's two things that come to mind to me, which is everybody kind of ended up taking on lots of extra to try to make something happen. And Joe and I ran around and ran all these programs. And we had people at sites who did that with us. And it was fun and messy and interesting and very unpredictable and had lots of whoopsies, but it was a blast. And it was the year of the initial tie-dye color, which Ryan rejects, but we all think is fun and bright and a big fat party. You go to the next one. Now, we're in a totally different place 4 years later. And what I think is amazing about that is that we made this shift that I don't know of any other school districts around here that made, which is the funding went away. And we, even when the funding was here, we built something that actually like held itself. The HR and business and facilities departments started to think about summer programming as a part of what they did in a year. And the more that we did that, the more that we actually built capacity in all of these departments to have summer work be a part of the work that they're doing. One of the things about that is so amazing to me is that this year we ran multiple programs, and it was our 4th year, and I didn't do any of it this summer. It was really held by all of these people that have started to be like built themselves up in this system and this program, and we ran this massive summer program, and only because of all of the people on that screen. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those contributions, but I think the part that's worth being proud of and also knowing is that we've reached a point where the Corvallis School District has summer programming that's actually sustainable and could be in place for many years to come, not just financially, but in terms of the work that people have taken on and lifted that makes this actually happen. And that's remarkable. Just shy of 600 seats of kids is much larger than many of our whole schools that run, right? Just thinking about the amount of workforce that takes. So that's pretty amazing. And that's an amazing list of people who made all of that programming happen this summer. So we're going to talk a little bit about what those programs were. Much of this you know because we were so excited about it in the spring, we couldn't help talking about it. But we did run 5 different programs at the high school level this year. We ran a math camp that took place in August, and that was a camp for incoming 9th graders in terms of algebra prep and readiness. And Eric Daisy, one of our awesome math and educators at the Corvallis High School, ran that camp with some of his colleagues. It was a huge success, and we had great attendance. We ran a field ecology program this summer that awarded students science credit that got them out of the school into multiple sites every day. I have so many amazing pictures that were sent to me from that. If you ever want to see them, I'll just send them to you. They're gorgeous. But you can see them there with their binoculars and doing awesome work and getting science credit as a part of that activity. We ran a full credit recovery program. The foundation's intention this year was to double their funding. They did that successfully. We doubled the amount of opportunities and nearly awarded 100 credits this summer, which is an enormous amount of credit. Many kids are there for potentially a quarter credit or a half credit. So if you think about awarding 96 credits, that's an enormous amount of a lift for a group of kids who are trying to add to their credit. We ran a program at Urban Farm all summer. That's not new, but awesome and exciting. And this year we invited our students from Bridges next door to join that program. And then that became a program that was including both middle school and high school students. And then we had an awesome program that happened at CHS called the Summer Festival of Learning that really served our students who are dual language learners or potentially newer immigrants to our area, and really creating a community and connection and a language-rich environment. Awesome opportunity. When I look at that, what I would want you to see is that we ran 5 full programs at the high school level, and almost all of that due to funding from the foundation. At the middle school, we had 3 programs running. We ran a math program similar to the high school for incoming 6th graders. We had a program for foods, and then we had the Bridges Camp, which took place over at Urban Farm. I think Ryan was able to sneak in some snacks at the International Food Program. It was very popular. There was a lot of food that happened in that program. What I think is really worthwhile when we get to this place is middle school kind of highlights 2 things, which is one, we've had 2 years in a row now where we've had foundation grants for a couple of middle school teachers from Linus Pauling that have done these just hands-on, rich environment opportunities for middle schoolers. Kids, the attendance is through the roof. They all want to be there. They come, they have this very rich experience. It's a total blast. And I think highlights for us our continued focus on making sure that we have programs that are both practical, like credit recovery, but also interesting and magical and fun, like International Foods, which I would love to do. So lots of great participation there. At the elementary level, you're all aware that we ran programs. We ran our big literacy camp program, and then we also ran a Kinder Academy. And the Kinder Academies took place at both Lincoln and Garfield, where we mostly focused our energy on students transitioning into our DLI schools. What I would want to continue to highlight about our literacy camp is it remains to me to be one of the most inclusive programs that we run. We have students from all of our specialized programs were involved. So we had students who were engaged who are typically in our life skills program. We had students who attend our social emotional growth classroom. And then we had students from all of our elementary schools all mixed in together. And on this day also with a pig. But we don't have to talk about that just in case that makes others feel uncomfortable. Lots of amazing, you have to go back, lots of amazing learning opportunities in that space. I think one of the things I want to highlight is a quote from that teacher right in the middle, who's Jacob Newman. He's one of our PE teachers at Sheldon Middle School, awesome PE teacher. He continues to come back and work at our programs, and the thing we heard from him this year that was so sweet was he talked about how this opportunity in the summer to come and work with colleagues from all these different schools who do all these different jobs, and then he turns around and takes all the things he learns back to the gym at Sheldon and how much it has impacted him as an educator. And I think for me that highlights that we continue to have this very strong workforce that come and work for us in the summer. Our
the staff that returned this year, over 80% of them were returns from the summer before. They want to be there. They want to come. We had to turn people away because it's a very magical and happy space, and people are really happy about coming together and working on these camps together. It was just really lovely. What I want to highlight here is that while we look at secondary and we think about the role of the foundation holding that funding source, when we look at elementary, we can look at Melissa and Amy Leeson and their awesome work on the 21st Century Grant and the early literacy work, which is funding this. As a reminder, that 21st Century Grant is a 5-year grant. So again, we're in a position where we're actually looking at funding that can last longer than just one summer and then one summer and then one summer. So pretty amazing. Ryan already talked about the health fair, but here's a couple of pictures. The health fair to me is just an awesome example, again, of work moving from a couple of people to something that's now held and sustainable, somewhat on Kelly's back. But the health fair actually originated because we were trying to think about a place to get people hearing screenings. That's actually why we thought of the health fair 4 years ago, is that we had students who weren't getting the hearing screenings that they needed, and we wanted to try to figure out how to make sure that they did. And suddenly, Joe and I were sitting around saying, well, if they're gonna come for hearing screenings, they should get vision screenings, and if they're doing that, they should get dental screenings. And then pretty soon, here we are 4 years later, and this is what we have. And I think about the role of the community. I think about the amount of people reaching out to Kelly to make sure that they're involved and included. I think about people making sure there's a taco truck. These are the kind of things that last long term, and it's a beautiful example, I think, of a community commitment to serving our kids and families. And that is the thing that I think about summer, is the foundation is doing that now. When we met with Angela today, we talked about what was next for us. And her vision already is, how do we think about getting more people involved as we think about STEAM, or how do we get more people engaged in this conversation? And it really shows our community's commitment to the work we're doing in the summer. Like years past, we had family advocates working this summer, doing tons and tons of work. Major shout out to their work, as there was some significant housing things that happened in our community this summer. And the fact that we had advocates working meant that we got families into stable housing in ways that would have never happened if we didn't have that amazing work. And most of that is funded by the foundation as well in the summer. So that's a significant contribution as well. And then we had 2 mental health therapists who also worked this summer, continuing to serve families and kids who needed therapy over the summer. I think the last thing for us to think about is what's next. And I think what I love about this is the conversation we actually had today, which is we want to continue to create programming like credit recovery that's sustainable and making sure that kids are getting credit. We want our family advocates working and making sure that families have their bills paid and places to live and all the things that happen. And we want to continue to foster a space where people think about doing international foods or ecology camp at Mary's Peak, or all of the things that happen when people have the opportunity to be creative and funded and serve students and families. And our hope is that as summer programming moves forward, we've really positioned ourselves where we're not dependent on the state funds, though others could never do this without that funding, which is why I would strongly advocate that we're all advocating for that funding. But we as a community, I think, are a beautiful reflection of a place where people have really stepped in and said, we'll hold this with you. And now we have this very sustainable standing program, not contingent or leaning on one individual's passion for the work, but a system that will move forward, which is pretty amazing. That's all. Ryan, do you have things you'd add? You got to enjoy it as well.
A couple of things I would also highlight. One is, if you haven't seen that Oregonian article that came out, it was around our summer school programming. And it was students from across the state who actually had a chance to work with Sabrina and Kelly and Angela as they were writing articles. They were at OSU for the week, learning to be journalists. And it was a great article about our summer programming. So if you haven't seen that, you should take a look. And then again to the foundation. So the foundation supported us with $165,000 for summer programming, which is fantastic and phenomenal, and says so much about this community and their willingness to contribute to the work we do. So again, as you see Angela in the community, make sure to say thank you like we continue to do, because it's made a significant difference. Thinking about almost 100 credits earned over the summer for our high schoolers, that just puts you in a different mode when you come back to school, when you're feeling on track versus when you're not, in so many different ways. And again, that's the result of having a strong foundation and a strong community. And finally, the advocacy has to continue, because we are unique in that, and every community across our state should have the funds they need to really think about school as a 12-month endeavor, and summer programming allows us to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for that amazing report. And related to what Ryan just said, I had it in my notes to let you know that the summer program, the article, RA article about, it might have been that one, was used in that OSBA legislative training that I was talking about earlier as an example of a positive example to use for advocacy, of saying, like, if we had funding, we can do things like this, and they should have funding as well. And so I thought that was really significant that it's being used in state trainings for districts across the state as well. So that's pretty cool. But any questions or comments? Go ahead, Chris.
First of all, thank you for all that you did. You didn't give yourself credit at all. And I know that you oversaw, is that the right word? And organized and really managed all of that. So I thank you for that. My question is, were any kids turned away from it because we didn't have enough? So everybody got to come that wanted to come.
Yep. And you know, that happens in real time as well, right? Sometimes kids end up taking a trip they didn't expect or whatever, and we just called people that we thought maybe be interested that hadn't been previously contacted. And so we went and grabbed other people and brought them in, not literally, figuratively. But no, we were not having to send people away.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just to clarify though, you can't just say, I want to go, right? This is for students that,
That's true.
yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we clarified that, because I know students that were like, I want to do that. But
That's
it's
true.
yeah.
Yeah, we really continue to use this opportunity to focus on our more marginalized communities and maybe students who have been kind of just more removed from the school setting, and continuing to use this as a way to re-engage learners as well as their families if that has been strained in some way. So that's certainly continues to be the focus.
So at the high school, for credit recovery, but a student can still request to attend because they need.
Yes. I think what
credits.
you would see happening at the high school is that we continue to not take on students who might be trying to get ahead. We are continuing to focus our energy on students who need credit that's been lost or needs to be filled in. Yeah.
And some of the students come for half the day, for one class, or they're there for the whole day for a couple of classes, and that's really student dependent.
Yeah, which is kind of why we've shifted to talking about seats, because some students use more than one seat. We had programs that ran at different times this year, so some kids may have been actually fortunate enough to participate in 2 or in a couple of cases even 3 programs, which is awesome. Love that. So we try to talk about seats instead of just kids that way. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Sammy, you have any online? Your hand's up, okay.
I do. Yeah, thank you, Chair, and really thank you again. Every time we hear about this program, it grows more and more, and appreciate how the narrative has changed from the myth that we heard from legislatures that the summer program does not give you results, into those stories and data that's actually shows the results and shows the receipts. So really appreciate that. And I want to actually ask you to go a little bit further with the summer program. having students now, probably some of them went once, twice, or 3 times, right? Is there any evidence that summer program reduce absenteeism or help mitigate chronic absenteeism? And if so, how can we put our hands on such data so we can share it not only for funding summer program, but also for sharing one of the best practices that might be actually helping with addressing a very big challenge that the state is struggling with, which is chronic absenteeism?
Yeah, it's a good question because it kind of talks about like longitudinal data in a way that we don't tend to do in education, right? We tend to do longitudinal data in like really bulk settings where we look at cohorts, and this really looks at individualized longitudinal data, which we don't have a ton of. I can say like it does exist, which means we now do have students, exactly to what you're saying, Sammy, that are had maybe as freshmen or sophomores removed themselves from the school setting, were credit deficient, and through summer programs are openly saying, like, I've re-engaged with the school, I'm actually getting my credits, and I'm on track to graduate maybe at 4 or 5 years. And that's substantial. It's not data that we have really easily because it's totally different than the kind of data we often capture. But it does exist. It just exists on a very student by student basis, which is, we see it. There are kids who have now re-engaged and are actually like on track to graduate where they were maybe on track not to be attending or participating. I think also to your point, Sammy, when we think about kind of the overall message around attendance, particularly nationally, but in Oregon, I come back to, this is our second year in a row where our high school credit recovery attendance is in the high 90s, which is not something you see anywhere. And I just continue to think that is the thing I would be talking about at the legislative level. Like, what is it that's happening that brings 95% of the kids every single day where we know that's not representative of the attendance at large? And so I do think those longitudinal stories are pretty hard to capture, but I think that attendance story is very powerful.
Absolutely, thank you. And I want to uplift the fair, the health fair, and being there and seeing students and families. Some of them are like, I met a refugee family. They were literally here for less than a month, if not weeks, and navigating the process and being set up for the whole spectrum of services and resources that they need to be in the school really made me feel home, made me feel that our students are feeling home, and that opportunity was just phenomenal. Really appreciate that work. It feels like community is there, families and parents and kids are connecting with the services. Really appreciate it. And the anecdotal stories, if someone can get their hearing aid through that detection early on in the year, that will resolve lots of challenges down the road. And with that, I want to ask you, it is a great investment. That day, where does it come from in terms of the funding? Is it summer programming funding for that health fair, or do we put it from our general fund? Where is it allocated from?
If I think about the cost of that, the highest cost of that is probably the people running it. So you're paying for Kelly out of general funds, and that's where a lot of the work is. So when we think about most everything runs that day on a volunteer basis, right? People are participating voluntarily. Staff that are working there either volunteering or they're doing it as that day's work because it's a work day, right? And so the funding is really about the lift of staff just doing that, but everything else about that is volunteer in the community. Would you add to that, Kelly?
I think I would say we've also utilized funds we've had in the past that maybe don't exist anymore to have some infrastructure, like some of the signs
Yeah.
or some of the pieces, so that that's now self-sustaining. We don't have to
Yeah.
make those purchases anymore. And then some of the community partners help fund some of the pieces as well, like IHN help pay for the tacos. So
Yes.
we rely
Yeah.
on community partnerships as well.
Thank
Sammy,
you.
did you hear Kelly?
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that Sammy did hear. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was in the,
Thanks.
just want to make sure we follow our responsibilities. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just very briefly, over the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to speak with a number of students who have benefited from summer program, particularly credit recovery, and that I have witnessed with my own eyes students feeling like I can get a high school diploma, I can do that, and feeling so much like the school district cares about them and cares about them as people. And although it's a very small sample size, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done, because it's been incredible for the young people that I've worked with.
Good. Yeah, there's no end in the bragging on Matt McDonough's work there. He runs like a weightlifting club at lunch. I mean, like all the things he's done to make that approachable and really connected is just amazing. It's really amazing. So, thank you.
So one last thing I want to add about the resource fair that happened this year, just by luck and fortune. Several families came who were bilingual families, and the parents, as they were there in the fair, talked about wanting to come and be employees. So we made connections with some future employees as a result of them bringing their kids to the fair as well. So again, it's just all these ways we're all impacted and supportive of one another. It's really awesome. And again, thank you to Sabrina for taking an idea about hearing screenings and making it something like this. It suits you.
Thank you. I was just double checking our agenda, and also we were in exec session for a little bit before. Do y'all want to break yet, or do y'all want to keep going? We're good to keep going? Okay. All right, just wanted to double check. All right, the next item on the agenda is the review of board norms. And this is an action item. Ryan is gonna go on the other side and chat with us. And as a reminder, we go over these every year to make sure we don't have things we want to revise, or if we do have things we want to revise, that this is our opportunity to voice those. I think we updated them quite a bit last year, but they're up for review every year. So if our needs change as a board, that would be where we would do this. And go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, just reinforcing what you just shared. The board norm document is one that we initially started with out of a board survey, or a board end of year survey, just talking about strengths and weaknesses, areas for growth. And so out of that, identified some specific areas to work on in terms of the board norms. So if you want to start there, this is your document. And so I will be more of a scribe if there's modifications you want to make. And then the second document where we will go in the agenda is the board and superintendent working agreements. And that's a joint or shared document between the board and the superintendent.
But they are separate agenda items, just so the board's clear on, we can only do one at a time.
Exactly. And but that's where the progression.
It's next, yeah. Thank you, Ryan. So does anyone have questions or thoughts about the board norms? Go ahead, Judah.
I just had one question about if we should clarify discussions about any school board business before or after meetings when there is quorum, and not doing that, and put that on the board norms.
I don't know. Like if it's in the board norms to not be in quorum.
Yeah,
I think that one, isn't that more related to like public meeting laws versus like our board norms, or?
So we do have quorum before the meeting starts.
Right.
And so just not to discuss business
Okay.
prior or during breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if that was necessary, but it was a thought I had.
That would be my only question, is because it is a public meeting law piece. But to specify it at our meetings, we understand that we're not supposed to do it. That's what the suggestion is, right?
Yes.
Okay. What do other folk think? And Sammy, if you want to just unmute, because I can't see if your hand is raised, if you had something to say about that too.
In hearing Judah's comment, it seems like that could fit nicely under how we meet, because we talk about during board meetings, and that might be a nice line to add around before and after, as well as during breaks, board members will not engage in discussion related to board business or, something that does adhere with what the laws are, but just to note that so that the public understands too. If they see us standing in a corner, we may be talking about a grandchild or our own child's first day of school, but not board business.
So that'd be like number 6, like, before meetings, after meetings and during breaks, board members are not talking about, board business.
Yeah, that I was just thinking that, just for clarification, since we are in quorum
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah, okay. Do you have suggested language for that, Ryan?
When I
Or were
bring
you
it back for
capturing
second reading, I could bring something back for you.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why I like that idea is because there will be a interim seat on the board coming up soon, and then there will be elections in May for 4 seats. And so I think the practice has been to bring this back every fall. And if there are new members or new members, then it would be established in here. They could always decide to take it out later, but it just sort of establishes that expectation in another place.
Yeah, and I appreciate that it will help clarify for the public too, that like, if there's 4 of us, we're not like deliberating without your knowledge as electeds and that represent the community. And so that acknowledgement in a document could be really helpful too. So thanks for that, Judah. You have anything, Sammy?
Yeah, I like this, and this is one of the most salient things with the community. Like, they see us and before and during and after the meeting. So elevating that will be really valuable, and I like it. One thing I would note, whether in the statement of that point or somewhere else, that we cross-reference the remainder of things that we abide by because of public meeting law or board R&R, which we do through our training. So there's a cascade of things that happen that we need to do through our trainings, like avoiding the daisy chain communication, reply all of these things are somewhere in our working agreement or culture, and it is part of our training. And I want to make sure if we capture one, we don't forget the others, or at least we reference the others in OSBA's training or roles and responsibilities trainings that board members commit to do during the beginning of their service.
I appreciate that comment because I was reviewing our public communications that are posted online, and so those are like in the emails, that's not in the board norms, but it's on the web page. So something about the reply alls could be put in there that's related to board norms, but it's more around communication. So that should be something definitely we need to update on the web page too. Any other additions or go ahead, Chris?
I wonder are there norms for our student leaders that are on here? Because I wonder sometimes their understanding of roles and things like that while they're on here.
Not in this sense because they are not elected officials like we are, right? But they have voices at we have the policy for student representatives. Yeah.
Do we have board norms for them as well? Because I think this lays it out really well for us, and I think it would be great for us to do that for our students as well.
So a potential project with them though, yes.
With their voice, of course.
I can't remember who all is signed up for the mentors because we just redid that, but that could be, would that be something that those of you doing that want to?
I didn't know we just re-signed up. I'd like to sign up.
Kim sent something.
No one, I just sent out who already
was.
but we do have one school that doesn't have a mentor right now.
Okay.
So it's CHS. Okay. Judah just volunteered, you all saw
Okay.
that, right?
So there's 3 people signed up now, right? Not 4, or is there 4 with the student mentors?
Well, Shauna and Chris both have CHHS. Therese is CV. And then Judah would be CHS.
Okay, so just don't meet together then, all 4 of you.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be the only thing is, so, I don't know how that would work with the process then, if there's 4 board members working with the students, because it would be separate items. Or, yeah, that's true, or when, there's 2 for CB,
College Hill.
College Hill. So maybe one of the College Hill folk can like step back to allow the other 3 to work with the students, so you're, okay. We'll figure it out. Any other questions or suggestions?
I asked about this last year, and I think, Ryan, you suggested I bring it up during this conversation, but I could be wrong, so just let me know. We've talked about how board members are aware of different events at different schools so that we can go and observe and be part of, or support, basically. And like, there's no general calendar, district calendar that says, oh, CHS is hosting, you know, something. And so I wonder if there is any kind of avenue for us to be able to see what's going on in other schools so that we can go in and support with invite, of course. And is that part of the norms, or would that be something else?
Are you asking about like in-school activities to go to?
Yeah, like, you know, there's like choir concerts or orchestra concerts or all kinds of things like that, that as board members, I think a lot of us attend because we just hear about them, but would like to attend more so that we can support and know what's really going on in our schools. I thought we talked about this being part of the norms, but maybe
I don't know if they would go in the norms, because these are more around like our, how we operate and work as a board. And so if we had something in there, it would be like more like an expectation of us going to those events would be the norms. And so I think what you're talking about is a little tiny bit different than that, right?
maybe.
Yeah.
So each school has a Google Calendar on their website. We don't have one that it all comes together on. I don't know if, I'm not sure what, maybe we need to talk about if there's a better way to gather that information.
So 2 things. One is that could be, I agree, I don't know that that has to be in this document. What I do see in the document is a conversation we've had as well, which is D4. The board may visit schools as informal expressions of interest in school affairs and not as visits for supervisory or administrative purposes. And so again, feeling comfortable visiting schools and also recognizing the role that you play. I think that's an important one because you are an active board and a participatory board in our schools, that folks understand and know that. With regards to the calendar, that's something I'm taking a note on. Something that I find that I could find value in that as well, because I'm always searching OSAA or school websites for upcoming events, and that would save me a lot of time too. And at the same time, trying to address the availability of staff time to pull that off. So I'll take it as a note and bring some sort of information about it. Is that okay?
Chris, do you want to answer like on the, because they couldn't hear you on the.
Yes, thank you, Ryan, for doing that.
Thank you, Chris, for making sure they heard online. I was imagining like this giant Google Calendar merge, and I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine all the color coding associated with that, but it would be super helpful to have the, did you have something, Shauna?
Yeah, I was going to say had something, but I didn't want to interrupt. I was just wondering if on D4, Chris, to your comment, if adding language that says the board may visit schools and attend or participate in school events as informal expressions might just bring that in, because visiting schools can look different than, like you said, sitting at a choir concert or an orchestra concert. So maybe just that small shift in language might help bring that more intentionally in.
Although attending events like concerts and stuff, people do talk to us. And so that would create an expectation of like, we're not there to talk about. So I do have a little bit of, that might be does that make sense? Like sometimes people come up to us after an event and be like, hey, I just wanted to express this to you as a board member, you know what I mean? And if we have that in our board norms, would that restrict that, how it's worded?
Well, I wonder, because the way I read it is that in your intention to visit, you'd be
Okay.
coming not to be a supervisor or for administrative purposes in, coming to keep an eye on a school or to make judgments about what's happening.
Okay.
So I don't know that would mean that we
Okay, that
couldn't
makes-
then
that
engage
makes
in
sense,
community
yeah.
conversation.
Never mind.
And we have other stuff
Just-
in there about only the chair acting as the spokesperson.
Erase my thing, but,
and-
yeah, but I think it's different if a constituent is coming up and saying, I have this going on and I wanted to share it with you, do you have thoughts on this? And that happens at events at the schools, that doesn't happen as much, I feel like, when we're visiting schools for other reasons, but like tours and stuff like that, but when we go to events where there's more community there, I think that happens more in those settings, like especially after. And so that's where I was kind of going with that, but I can see how it's already clarified where, never mind, we can just erase what I said on that. I just want to make sure that we didn't create something where the community felt like they couldn't talk to us. And that's because public engagement is super important. And so I just want to be careful that we didn't do that is all. But noted, thanks.
So do you want me to go over what I have so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so two pieces that are sort of in the parking lot, a potential project for students on their norms, along with board members, and then an upcoming events calendar. So those are two things that I'm taking away as notes. What I have down is that there were, under B, there was gonna be a B6, and one of the ways I wrote that was the board follows public meeting laws, including, and then you could go on to talk about the quorum component. So it broadly is around all public meeting laws and more specifically about the quorum rule on breaks and before and after meetings. And then the second one I had was related to D4. The board may visit schools and participate in school events as informal expression. So just adding that component.
Thanks, Ryan. Anything else that needs to be added or revised? Sammy, you got something?
Yeah, I want to just reference that's BCBA-AR for student representatives to the board have some kind of somewhere between duties and working agreement kind of a list. So whatever we do for the working agreement, I think just making sure it's aligned with the administrative rule for student representatives, or referencing it, or just not duplicating or having two different documents. Just want to make sure we capture that as we include students in the working agreement.
Thanks, Sammy. That is probably what I was talking about when I was saying that I thought we had something along those lines already, but it's not named norms. And so, but yeah, I was like, I swear we had something, but thanks for referencing which document it was for the folk working with the students. Can you say that one again?
Yeah, BCBA-AR. So it's the student representatives to the board. Bravo, BCBA. And I also said the first paragraph that says student representatives to the board will, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's kind of, I would say, somewhere between duties or working agreement kind of list.
Okay, great. Thank you. Y'all got that one? Okay, cool. Okay, anything else on the board norms? This was an action item on our agenda, so we need to make a motion to table it, I believe, for a second read.
It's my fault, so I'll move to table this for a second read.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Judah and seconded by Chris. Any further discussion? Okay. It's been moved by Judah and seconded by Chris to table board norms for a second read. Sammy?
Aye.
Judah,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Shauna,
Aye.
and I vote aye, so that passes unanimously. Thanks, you all. The next item on the agenda is to review the board and superintendent working agreements. And Ryan, do you have some, you already talked about this, but do you have anything else you wanted to add about it?
Is this one put down as action as well?
It is, yeah, they're all actions, so we may
Okay.
end up tabling it.
I just
then.
don't have the agenda in front of me, so I thought I
Okay.
should double check on that.
Yeah, this is an action one, so if we make, it's okay if we end up tabling it, just wanted to point that out, we can make changes. But it is an action item as well, yes.
And ideally, I'll make these changes and bring it back in the consent agenda, rather than individual items next time.
Okay. I'll give folk time to pull that one up. One thing I appreciate about this document is it helps like define our roles and remind us about boundaries with our roles as well. There's no comments, I could entertain a motion.
I have one suggestion. We're
Yeah,
talking
the
about
que-
working,
Do you have a question?
yeah, about the working agreement.
Okay,
I'm trying to find it. I'm sure it's here, but could you point out where it is, where when the chair receives communication, the chair responds, and then afterwards, board members respond if they want. Is that here under role of board leadership, or is it somewhere
Are you
else?
looking at C2, board leadership will serve as the authorized spokesperson?
Thank you. Yes, and probably there's something similar to it about written communication.
that is only online that I can
Yes.
recall. And that's where that's stated that, so that should be in here, is that what you're pointing out?
Yes, and yes. The
Okay.
first point is maybe amending or including that section from our online communication protocol into number 2 or a different point within there.
Okay,
And frankly, I think we need a little bit of justification why we do that. It's really good. We are a board of governance. We don't have separate constituencies, separate zones or whatever. We work as a team, and we trust our leadership to speak on our behalf and make sure constituents are heard and other things. A state legislature actually objected to this practice, and I know within OSBA we teach that practice as best practice, and I would like to make sure we make it clear for the community why we're doing it. So I would like to include, number one, I would like to include what we have online there about the communication protocol, and also I would like to see if there's a way for us to say, this is why we do it. So
that makes sense. Okay,
That's been included at times over the last handful of years. And what I've noticed is that we've grown language and then we've shrunk language. And again, thinking about changes, I think it would be worthwhile to grow language, adding more specificity here as well.
yeah, I think it would be helpful, especially for the email one, because I think sometimes community members are wondering why nobody has said anything and then when the board responds, then people individually email back, and so that way they're not wondering like, okay, yeah, so that would be, I think that would be helpful. And again, to align things that we have published online with our working agreements. And we have other areas that specify the board being the spokesperson, but it doesn't talk about online communications, and so that might be helpful to specify that. And to your point about, we have a seat vacant right now that will be hopefully filled in a couple months for that new person.
Since we're now making changes, I have one I'm curious about, and I'd like your feedback on, and that is under B2. The board will collaborate with the superintendent to set the long-term direction of the district through the mission, vision, goals, and priorities. We spend the majority of our time talking about board goals. And so while we focus on mission and vision, I don't know if we just bring goals up to the first in the order, or if we just strike mission and vision and just focus on goals and priorities. Or if we want to leave it as it is, I understand that too.
Thoughts?
I think it's moderately redundant, but I have no objection to it as is.
Go ahead, Sammy.
My thoughts keep it as is for the following reason. Our goals are still in line with our vision and mission, and usually for an institution, the mission and vision are very overarching, where they rarely change it. They may stay the same for decades or even a century. So making sure that this responsibility of setting the vision and mission is always the responsibility of the collaborative work between the board and the superintendent is good. And I agree. Most of our work is on the goals, even if we did not change our mission and vision. But the goals are the North Star, and the vision and mission is the North, if that makes sense. So I would like to keep them so we're always reminded that our goals are not the goals for their own purpose, are the goals to continue doing our mission and one day achieve our vision, if that makes sense.
I can live with it for sure. I just wanted to raise it.
Okay. You all feel okay with that? It stays? Okay. You already said you did. Okay.
So
All
just
right.
to summarize, we're making one addition, and that is going back to the role of response to email and the process that we follow.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else anybody wanted to add? No? Okay. All right, cool. So this is an action item, so we need a motion to table for a second read on this as well.
Chair, I move with unanimous consent to table this item for a future meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
It is moved by Sammy and seconded by Judah to table the board and superintendent working agreements for a second read through unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Okay, that passes. And oops. We have a couple more things on the agenda, and let's see, where are we? Action, information, comments. Y'all want to take a break? Is that okay? Wait, are y'all good with taking a 5-minute, like a 10-minute break maybe? Okay, 5 to 10 minutes. 5, 10. 5-minute break would be awesome. I need a 5-minute break. That's partially why I'm asking. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, y'all. The next item on the agenda is nominations for the Oregon School Board Association, our OSBA Board of Directors, and Legislative Policy Committee positions. This is also an action item. The first item is for nominations for the Oregon School Board Association Board of Directors position number 10. And the way that this process works, just for folk that know, for OSBA positions, is for somebody to run in the elections for their board and for their Legislative Policy Committee. They have to be nominated by they have to be nominated by a board in their region. Our region is the Lynn-Benton-Lincoln region. So that is what position 10 represents. So is there any discussion?
I think that Dr. Whitebeard would do a great job at this.
I agree with that, 100%.
Thank you for that.
And just to clarify, because I know there's two positions there, talking about the OSBA Board of Directors position in particular for position 10.
Yeah. And just for transparency, I did send something out to our region, to school boards, and ESDs and community colleges are all represented by this position. So expressing interest in this position. So thank you for recognizing or saying that you agree that I would be great at that. Is there any other discussion about it? And also that communication is sanctioned under OSBA campaigning stuff, just so people know. Does anyone like to make a motion?
I move that the Corvallis School Board nominate Director Whitebear for the OSBA Board of Director position number 10.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, it has been moved by Shauna and seconded by Chris. Is there any further discussion? I would say that I would accept that nomination. Did Sammy have anything?
He's there, but not there. He's not in the picture.
Oh,
There he is, he's back.
Sammy, were you not here for when we came back?
No, I was here.
You were here, okay. I was just making sure. I was like, oh my gosh, we started without you, oh no.
No, you're good.
So is there any further discussion? Okay, it has been moved by Shauna and seconded by Chris that the Corvallis School Board nominate myself, Director Whitebear, for the OSBA Board of Director position number 10. Sammy?
Aye.
Judah?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Shauna?
Aye.
And I vote yes, so motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. That does not mean I received that position. I have to run for that position. And those elections take place later in the fall. The next one is for the OSBA Legislative Policy Committee, position number 10. That was actually previously held by Sarah Finger McDonald. I didn't serve in that one, but I did serve as a representative for the OSBA Caucus of Color and have learned quite a bit about legislative efforts for the state for schools through that position. I don't know if we have anybody to nominate for this one, but or if there's any discussion on it. And we don't have to nominate somebody, just so you all know, too, if people are feeling pressured.
Well, if it would help, I can share that the commitments is about 3 to 4 meetings and updating your region with updates. And if you have the board of directors, whoever is the board of directors representative, you can work with them. So really great points of entry. And even if you are a first-year board member or second-year board member, that would be a great opportunity. So don't shy away from nominating yourself.
Okay, I don't think we have a nomination for the LPC for OSBA right now. And we'll see how things go, because sometimes there's no nominations for a region too, and then they end up needing to do appointments as well. Okey-dokey. So our next item on the agenda is consolidated action. As a reminder, items under this portion of the agenda are for action. Does anyone have a question about anything in consolidated action? Okay. Does anyone wish to make a motion?
I move to adopt the consolidated action items as submitted.
Second.
Was that Judah or Sammy? It was Sammy. Judah said it was Sammy. Okay. Is there any final discussion? It has been moved by Shauna and seconded by Sammy to adopt consolidated action items as submitted. Sammy?
Aye.
Judah?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Shauna?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so motion passes. Okay, and then the next item on the agenda is consolidated information. As a reminder, the items under this portion of the agenda are for discussion. Would anyone like to discuss an item in consolidated information? There's a lot of policies in this one. I won't be surprised if we have ones to discuss, but sometimes we don't. Do you have one?
I just had a quick format question. We don't necessarily need to pull it. For the workplace harassment, it's the highlighted portion that was added.
We do have to pull it if you're asking about pieces in it. It's okay, we're not voting on it. So
Okay,
this is
just pull it because I want to know. That's the only thing that was added, and then the change for the contact information at the bottom.
the GBEAR, that one? Or was it the policy AC? Which one are you talking about?
GBEAAR.
Okay. Are there any others?
Clarifying question about the last one, the one with
The
the
last
form.
one is JHFF. It has a lot. Number 6? Okay, let me try. JHFF dash GBNAA dash AR. That one, Sammy?
Correct.
Yay. It's like, I hope it's that one. Okay, just for the letters. Any other ones? Okay. Go ahead, Judah, with the GBEA-AR.
And this will answer my question for the rest of them. In this, the additions are highlighted in gray, and then the subtractions are the strike-throughs. Is
Yes.
that correct? Thank you.
Didn't you have a question about contact stuff on this?
That was what's at the bottom, so there was just an addition highlighted, and then there was a strike-through and a new contact information at
Okay.
the bottom.
It's a new non-discrimination statement that includes contact information that's been updated.
Thank you. Okay, Sammy?
Well, probably that's also applicable to that. So could you explain why where the contact is going from the Title IX coordinator to the Title II specific coordinator? Is there any implications or any types of complaints that, like, is there anything changing other than the first points of contact to handle those complaints? And why is this happening? Is it only institutional change, or is that driven by any federal law?
There's federal law and Oregon law, but when it comes to Title IX, there's specific roles that need to be filled that have particular duties that can't be filled by another person that is also in that in that same framework. So in this case, what we have is Rinda Gregory, who serves as our Title IX coordinator, and she was not listed previous to this. Instead, Jennifer Duval was. Jennifer Duval is still our Human Resources Director, but is no longer the Title IX Coordinator. We've moved that role to someone else. So we are required to make sure that we have that person's name listed in particular in all of these documents. So we wanted to start the year fresh with new documents and new information.
Beautiful. Can I follow up, Melissa, with this? Probably this is just the disclosure and it's not going to contradict with our processes. The idea of one-stop shop for complaints, and we talked about that through the handbook that you have developed. Is this going to change it or make it more complicated for people to figure out who to contact? And if they do contact one, they will be rerouted to the second one without losing time or ability to share. I'm just wondering about how does this may impact our one-stop entry point to file a complaint or to navigate the complaint.
I don't think that it impacts that kind of like what you're talking about, the one stop or the button you push to file a complaint. The complaint software that we use for the website just asks you what is your complaint, and if your complaint is about sexual harassment and you fill in all that information, the program that we're using, the software we're using to maintain those records and do data analytics and things on it, that points the complaint to the person who needs to see it. So if you filed a complaint that was under sexual harassment, we go directly to the Title IX coordinator. And then from there would be conversation possibly between myself and the Title IX coordinator and Jennifer Duval about kind of the approach we would take with the complaint. Some people just, and it's okay, some people just say, it's just a formal complaint, and then they do their narrative. And in the background, when we see it, we're like, oh, actually, this is probably an IDEA complaint, or this is a complaint that needs to go to our bias incident. So we'll do that in the background. So this does not create a barrier that way. In fact, it kind of creates a space where a person who wants to talk to someone can pick up the phone and call Rinda and say, I need to talk to you about something.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any questions on that one? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is board member comments. Any comments? We're so quiet tonight. I'm confused, but it's fine. I just wanted to say thank you to my fellow board members for the nomination for the OSBA position 10 seat, and I know that there will be other people likely running for that as well, and if selected, I hope to represent our region well with the work that OSBA does on behalf of schools across the state, and including our own district. So, and then also just thank you to our community members that joined us this evening. Thank you for being here, and staff for all your work. And again, a reminder to community members that there's school zone speed limits even in Southtown and even off Circle and off Walnut. And so those are some busy streets, and the highway to off Highland. There's so many. I won't keep naming them all, but there are school zone speeds for a reason. So I just want to remind everybody about safety for students, and looking forward to this entire year with us as a board and working collaboratively with you, Ryan, and your team. And with that, the meeting is adjourned at 8:23 p.m. Nice.